And welcome back. Joining me now is Mervin Jebaraj, economist with the University of Arkansas Walton College of Business. Mervin, we've got record low unemployment for the second month in a row. It's at 3.4%. That's a good thing, right?
You certainly can't complain about a 3.4% record low unemployment rate here in the state. However, for the first time in 2019, at least for the first month in 2019, we've seen the record low unemployment rate be that way because more people dropped out of the labor force as opposed to people who were in the labor force finding work. So the unemployment rate didn't really move that much from last month, largely because people dropped out of the labor force. Now that movement wasn't significant, but given the long-standing labor force participation issues that the state has had, where our labor force participation rate is rooted to about 58% for the whole state, it is unfortunate that we've seen this movement. Now, hopefully it's just 1 month and it's not a trend. It doesn't get us back to where we were parts of last year where we consistently saw a really low unemployment rate, but it was in large part because people were dropping out of the labor force. Let's hope that the August numbers that we just got in are a blip more than anything else. But nonetheless, in all the talk of the record low unemployment rate here in the state, we don't talk about where the unemployment rate isn't at its record low. So roughly slightly more than half the counties in the state, the unemployment rate is above the statewide average, and it might be 2 points higher, or 3 to 4 points higher than the statewide average. So yes, the state's unemployment rate is 3.4%. There are parts of Arkansas where the state's unemployment rate has remained at about 5.5%, 6.5%, 7.5%. And consequently, the labor force participation rates in those places are pretty low too. And again, there are 18 counties in the state out of the 75 counties where the labor force participation rate is a lot lower than the state's. It's lower than 50% of the population is in the labor force. And the lowest one is Lincoln County in Arkansas, where only 31% of the population is in the labor force. So in spite of the really low unemployment rate that we've sustained for a very long time, there are still issues. There are still counties and regions of the state that are not doing as well. And there are places where the labor force participation rate is really, really low.
When you look at the major MSAs, the metropolitan statistical areas, Central Arkansas, Northwest Arkansas, Jonesboro, and Northeast Arkansas, are they carrying the load?
I think in several ways. If you think about, you're looking at median income, unemployment rates, or any of these labor force participation rates, a lot of the labor force growth does happen in Central Arkansas, in Northwest Arkansas, and in Northeast Arkansas, in the Jonesboro MSA, and that if you removed the economic growth and the job growth that you see in those regions of the state, then the state would be in a much poorer position than it is today.
Take me a little further into the numbers. What are we seeing in various sectors such as healthcare, professional services, transportation, et cetera? What industries are hot? Which ones are not?
So let's start with healthcare. Healthcare, since Arkansas expanded Medicaid through Arkansas Works in its previous iterations, healthcare has done remarkably well in the state. It used to be one of the fastest growing sectors in the state, so a lot of hospitals with the guarantee that the Medicaid expansion brought were able to expand their services in urban areas, and rural hospitals largely survived the trend of closures of rural hospitals that you've seen in other states that haven't expanded Medicaid, but you're starting to see that no longer be true. So Medicaid expansion provided a boost to hospitals since 2014 until about now. You're starting to see rural hospitals starting to struggle again in the state. We are not seeing large closures like we've seen in other states, but they're starting to struggle again. And urban hospitals are not expanding as fast as they were, in part because they have expanded as much as they need for population growth, but also some esoteric issues depending on which metropolitan area that you're looking at. So a lot of the metros that we've just talked about, Northwest Arkansas, Central Arkansas, Northeast Arkansas, your birth rate's not particularly high. So, if you're thinking about hospital services, so gynecological services and pregnancies and births, you're not seeing a lot of those services because people aren't having as many kids. So you're seeing a pullback in the healthcare sector's growth rate. It's still positive. We're not shedding jobs in that sector, and it is a very major sector in the state, so it's important to at least hold on to the current levels of growth that we have in healthcare going forward. The sectors that you are seeing some more growth in the last few years are manufacturing. which is a little surprising given some of the trade and tariff wars that we've had going on that have affected manufacturing in particular. So nationally, manufacturing is seeing a little bit of a contraction, but here in the state, the number of jobs still continues to grow. Maybe it's not growing as fast as it grew earlier this year, but it is growing still. We added about 3,000 jobs. Roughly about a third of those jobs are actually in Northwest Arkansas. So even though you're seeing manufacturing growth, it used to be that you'd see a lot more manufacturing growth in non-urban areas, but about a third of the manufacturing growth that we've seen so far has been in Northwest Arkansas. Sectors that aren't doing so well, what comes to mind often is mining and logging. The state had a mini boom in the natural gas industry that essentially went away when natural gas prices dropped off. Gas prices are going back up slightly because of geopolitical tensions in the Middle East, but not quite enough to bring natural gas back in the state.
He's Mervin Jebaraj, economist with the Walton College of Business at the University of Arkansas. Thanks.
Thank you.